Where some more snow today, but not that cold. This is about the human condition. Let's say I get a public forum, and at some point somebody there says, "Martin, your YouTube is kind of, doesn't say very good things. You think as a species we're broken." And this could be a doctor that works with patients, or a politician that believes they have the right solutions without having an accurate view of the human condition. Or it could be a millionaire who thinks they're so rich that what they're inventing, or a computer genius, what they're working on is going to solve everything. And yet it's easy for me to see they've got this broken up here. Then I would say, yes, you're very broken, and here's a prediction I make on the human condition. Is you will not attempt to ever fix what you will never admit is broken as a species. And a lot of the elites think, we'll have this place to hide from the majority, and these weapons to destroy them or defend ourselves when they come for us, for having helped to create over generations and hundreds and thousands of years. It's not just the ones that are alive today, but the ones that are alive today have the choice to no longer be the bad guys of history, except I predict they won't make that choice. And I've predicted before that a lot of the people that rednecks or dumb people all around the world think are the saviors are just the villains as well. So let's say, for example, the elites think they're going to be safe underground or on an island or in the air or in the mountains or whatever it might be, or all together in one place. As I already said, that's not going to work, because you'll need security. You'll need to almost vet yourselves every 12 hours to reassess that none of you is going to turn against each other, which you will because of HSD. Or the best security staff or security system that is programmed or maintained by somebody is not going to turn against you. Of course they will, because eventually that's what you always do. And they have loved ones that they'll want to bring in there, and you'll say no. But there's other scenarios related to leaving this planet. That is a pattern, although I haven't traveled around the universe to confirm this, but it makes a lot of sense to me. It's is when a species has failed as much as yours did, the one I share DNA with, and let's say it focuses the remainder of its energies on escaping the planet without a place to go, really, except just living in space, which is an evolutionary dead end, at least with the technology that we have now, or even in 1,000 years would still be a dead end eventually. It's going to be shot down. Like, you guys arm yourselves and you create so many weapons of mass destruction for profit that, of course, any enemy you have now, or friends you have now, or allies, will be enemies to this ship trying to leave. It'll be shot down. It'll never leave. Plus, you might not even have the right conditions to take off at some point. There'll be like so many superstorms that you won't even succeed taking off anywhere successfully. You'll be like the last minute of desperation. People will want to take a risk that the ship that may or may not last long enough to get to wherever, where it will likely not succeed, will likely also not be able to leave the atmosphere without being... It might be all sorts of scenarios, like weapons that you've helped pay for, or your families to put in the hands of the wrong people you wanted to control, that shoot you down, or that keep sabotaging things that you never get to the time of actually departing. You also are irresponsible with technology that, at that point, there might even be like a 3% chance, and it'll land on that 3% chance where you'll be hit by debris in orbit that'll be all over the place. So when Iron Man, or let's say Trump, is now saying he wants to put an armor around the United States, except countries like the United States think they own so many places and they have so many embassies, you'll really have to put an armor all around the world, and you weren't successful at, putting a little fence all through the border between the United States and Mexico. And yet the insecurities in the collective unconscious will make it still likely Again, about 50% chance. I haven't seen a deviation in the norm of the divide in the United States, which is a country definitely that's going to increase more and more of its own civil wars. And so, that might not be a good place to actually take off with the ship from the elites. It'll have to be, you'll be at war with your own people who will be so mad that they won't want to leave with you. They just won't want to let you leave, because you'll be the ones deserving the biggest consequences. It might not even be a death in a blowing up spaceship of your escape without even a place to go. So that's the shame you have. You won't even stay. So here's a solution. If you're the elites and you're being advised by people that don't suffer from HSD, which is extremely unlikely, is come clean, work on things, admit more hardships are to come, and you'll have to admit this for quite a few generations, and that you are now prioritizing the well-being of the norm. And for that, it'll include reinventing the mental health system, getting rid of drugs, melting down weapons for important material. It'll be education of quality in ways you've never had before, never anywhere. It'll be really, and it'll have to be also that there's no more games in your politics and internal wars. It'll have to be like, this is what scientists tell us. They're updating us every 3 months on the priorities in every level of ecological, planetary, social, long-term projections, and they're doing it within systems thinking where it's all interconnected, and it's being updated, and that's how every politician in the world is updating their priorities and decisions and policy making. And there will be people who won't want to do this work, and I guess maybe send them to Australia, and they can just do whatever they want over there and self-destruct, and that'll be the worst of humanity there, the ones that want to remain in competition or intellectual laziness or human chauvinism or blaming everybody else for the problems that we all face instead of doing their part. This might be what comes in the future that is not that far off. Again, I've been criticizing videos that are very informative, but that mention scenarios too far in the future when the impact, like let's say one recently, okay, it says, the projection, it says in the video, okay, the projections have been conservative in the past, turns out it's a lot worse than we thought, and yet they're doing it during this video. They're saying by the end of the century there'll be this amount of ocean rise in this area. It's not going to be the same everywhere, by the way. And the storms are going to bring in water surges everywhere, and some of the land will sink a bit more from the weight of water, like Florida. There's a lot of variations, and then it puts it in the future that there's still nothing to worry about. So that means they are the bad guys, these informative videos. And it's also that it just includes, let's say, the Thwaites Glacier. It doesn't include all the other melting glaciers around the world. It doesn't include other chemical and physical phenomenons that will cause not only ocean rise to get worse, like heat, but also storms, also various scenarios that are anthropocentric. That means, oh, don't worry, you'll have time to sell your house by the end of the century if you live by the ocean. So what you don't get, again, because the proof was there in COVID, the proof is there now still, climate change related, is that even within, let's say, Florida, let's say there's a law that says, okay, we admit the Anthropocene in the USA at a federal level that is so intense that we can no longer allow people to move around and try to relocate. Every state has to do the best they can, and then we will, in the meantime, write scenarios where if somebody qualifies for this application, they may move somewhere else. But for now, we're blocking all the state lines, and you can't move. That means Florida will have to accommodate people that can't live maybe within 20 to 30 years in 30% of the area that is already where Floridians live. So they will turn against each other. That's kind of a little bit like what Florida does. So the anthropocentric scenarios are never there when you mention things like sea rise. It doesn't mention that right now you can accommodate tiny, tiny little variations of hardships in your status quo lives. So can you imagine that you have to now share or build or abandon, in ways that, you'd need counseling, but there's nobody that cares to do a good job counseling in your state? And you'll have to figure all this stuff out. It's all related to the Anthropocene. The Anthropocene isn't just the weather, by the way. It's failing medical care when more diseases will come with melting permafrost. It's a lot of things. It's politicians that are being killed when they're the good ones, and the bad ones, are killing their own people. So, you'll have to figure all this stuff out. It is the human condition that you have to accept if you care about future generations. And you would think if somebody has kids, they'll care more. No, I haven't seen a correlation between people having kids caring more for the kids' generation than the ones that don't have kids. So figure this stuff out. It's not about being genetically wired. It's right now you have spread a disease called HSD through memetics over such a long period that one lifetime is not enough for a person to heal themselves of this. It'll have to be generation after generation after generation puts the focus on this and gets away from, the competitive ideologies and worldviews, which are getting worse now, by the way. So it's an easy sign that you have failed as a species.